Bring it up on the screen. That'll be my cue. Are we going to see it? Where are we going to see it? Are we going to see it?
You can see it on the monitor.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, 10 seconds.
10 seconds, okay. Later.
All right, in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome very, very much to Conversation. A pleasure to welcome to the program a friend of mine and a friend of the universe and the intellectual community. That's Anthony Gronowicz, PhD. He's been a guest a number of times with me on Conversations. It's so good to see you again, Tony.
It's always good to see you.
Always good to see you. I know there's always a lot going on in your corner, and it continues. So why don't we take it out? Just really quick, go through your background, and then let's get talking down, because you're doing a lot of work at CUNY.
Yes.
And with the students also, which
Absolutely,
is interesting.
with the students,
and we can
yes.
talk about the general situation,
Of
so far as
course.
politics and economics and so forth.
Sure. I'm a native New Yorker. Went to school here, PS6, Trinity School, Columbia University. Then Columbia didn't give me enough money. Penn gave me more, so I went to University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia and did a PhD in history, in actually New York City political history.
I knew University of Pennsylvania, major school.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
He's right.
and
Bucky Fuller was based there for a while.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I had a great dissertation advisor, Walter Licht, who holds a chair there now, labor historian. And
Labor historian.
He's a labor historian,
Right.
and he also he was, I guess, dean of the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences for a while as well.
Wow, that's interesting.
So I mean, it was a first-rate experience. You
The
can't
Dean
have a
of
better.
the Arts and Sciences would include a good deal of the student body representation of the overall university,
That's right. Yes.
It's a lot of the undergraduates and graduate degrees.
Well,
and everything?
this would be the graduate degrees.
Okay, right.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
So, and then taught different places, and now I'm back in CUNY, where I'm at the Borough of Manhattan Community College, and I'm faculty advisor to student government. I was elected by the students. I've been there for almost more than 10 years now.
Congratulations. Somebody's in touch with the students.
Well, yeah,
that's
and also
good.
when
at their level, yeah, that's
course.
important, yeah.
And then when I ran for mayor a second
Yeah,
time
you
on the
did,
Green Party
Right.
in 2013, I came in fourth. Didn't miss a day of work. Got around. I was embracing the political insurgencies in the city, and I should say fighting the political devils and embracing the social insurgencies.
You and Coley Clark were involved
That's
in
right.
that, right? Coley's
That's
a
right.
great person.
She's
great.
absolutely fabulous.
Absolutely.
Goes way back to Medgar Evers days.
Yes, and Cynthia McKinney's associated with the Green Party.
Right.
Back a little bit before that, I think. Yeah.
Yes, right.
Great voice, yeah.
Right. So then, because I ran for mayor, and the first word in my brochure was divest from fossil fuels.
Really? When would that have been first?
2015.
15. Oh, okay.
I'm
It's not
sorry,
like
2013 I ran
13.
for mayor.
Well, that's still early.
Now,
because
what am I
this
saying?
Thing,
I'm losing
no,
my,
I know about how you can lose track of dates and everything.
Right,
It seemed to
it's-
happen with
yeah.
alarming regularity. Yeah.
I was, de Blasio was my opponent.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was 2013.
I didn't realize de Blasio was so in touch with Barack Obama. He was in touch with Barack Obama.
So
way
anyway,
back.
I was approached by
Yeah.
CUNY Divest to
Okay.
become their faculty advisor. And I'm their faculty advisor. And next Wednesday, celebrating Earth Day, we are having at Icarus Plaza, appropriately named, in front of BMCC, a
downtown.
press conference for Earth Day and the signing of a banner, which we had wanted to drop, but we couldn't work out the logistics for dropping the banner, saying CUNY divest from fossil fuels. We've been working on that. We have a dozen campuses.
You've been covering that for going back to when it was just a few people in a phone booth somewhere?
Well,
when did the idea of the divest, which is now becoming a fossil fuel, is becoming a huge,
well, it's a huge thing at Harvard right
and everything.
on Harvard right now. They've stopped activities in certain buildings. They've been blockading the administration
No,
building.
but what I was saying, where did the kernel? I mean, if you go back to 1960, that wasn't a big issue.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
1970.
How did these things get
1970,
started?
Ralph Nader was talking about this. He wrote
Was
an
he
introduction.
yeah, he
yes.
was ahead of the curve.
He was
yeah.
the head of his time.
Yeah, right,
in this
right.
respect. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I've been working with them. I've been working on the student newspaper.
Okay,
I
let me
think
show
the
it.
last
Yeah, sure.
issue.
Yeah.
This is the last issue. The third issue is about to come out.
Yeah.
But this is an issue.
Well, okay, let me hold it up, and you can come in on this if you get a chance.
Yeah, that was study abroad, because
Uh-huh.
it's very important to expand the horizons of the students,
Yeah.
mentally, psychologically, and physically. And we did study abroad in Italy. And then Jim Crow, one of the people active in CUNY Divest, also works with prisoners who have been incarcerated, obviously.
It's another big issue.
That's a huge issue, and we want to divest from the prison industrial complex 80,000 people in solitary. And he put on an exhibit in Bushwick a couple of weeks ago of their art, and has a really nice program, and he's working on that. So we're trying to link it all together.
Yeah, there's a lot you can link together in a way that's coming to some sort of, we say this a lot, you and I, and
Right.
as we talk, to a sort of crescendo of absurdity or something. There's so much that you can look at, almost 360 degrees of dysfunction or malfunction that can be seen in the way
Well, thanks to technology, we're able to take photographs of what the police do, and some of the things they've done have been pretty awful. And we've had protests in the city, as you know. One of the new cries of the new movement is shut it down. There was a huge protest on December 4th. I went on, a huge march, and it represented for me the marriage of the Occupy movement of 2011 and Black and Latino youth. So that the entire march was fully integrated as with respect to age, diversity, and it was very impressive that night, December 4th. 60,000 people marching through the city, shutting down the highways, shutting down the bridges, blocking the tunnels, to say, look, enough is enough. Well, we had the grand jury lack of indictment of the police officer, even though everybody all over the world saw what was being done. The coroner said it was homicide, and yet the police officer who inflicted the major damage that killed Mr. Garner was exonerated, essentially, even though his record demonstrated that he'd been involved before and cost the city thousands of dollars. And instead of arresting him, they arrested the guy who took the cell phone photographs. The video, I should say. And he just got out last week. And then we've had more of these, and it continues, and it continues, and it's a very serious situation, getting more serious because of the absence of jobs, because of
the absence of jobs.
That's right. And the destruction of public education by the corrupt political establishment here. Just this morning, the Times had an article. The state Senate leader, Skelos, is about to be indicted along with his son. And then we had the state assembly leader, Silver, indicted. And his...
Where is that going? Is that coming?
They're putting together the case. But the point is, one is a Democrat, one is a Republican, and we're Greens. And we have a race out in Brooklyn right now where Grimm was reelected despite the fact that there was a indictment pending for his hanky-panky. He had to resign, and now we have an election where the Republican is likely to win, and that Republican is the district attorney who exonerated the police officer in the Garner case, and he's likely to win. And we have a Green, James Lane. So all the people out in Bay Ridge and Staten Island, I know you're not going to see it on Manhattan Cable, but
they might see it on YouTube.
Precisely, should go out and vote May 5th for James Lane.
YouTube's emerging as the medium of record. It really is. It's really important. It is really being spelled out with these. If Rodney King hadn't been on video, it would have been no Rodney King.
Well, now everybody's got their own video.
And it really has implications because there's video. Everybody's watching everybody, including the police officers.
Exactly.
Well,
we have the NSA with Snowden, so they're watching us. We're watching them.
Did you see the thing with Oliver? Oliver, you know, the guy on the Comedy Channel who did the thing with Snowden.
I have not.
It was a riot. It was really funny.
But YouTube is great for my exercise because when I'm sitting in front of the computer working on the books.
What is good for your exercise?
YouTube. I put on my favorite dance tune. Get up and dance. Get the
haven't you
moving.
also, if I may, we were chatting before we started, just to get it straight in terms of the preliminaries and that kind of thing. you become in a position of some authority or responsibility for the college,
My
which
union
ought to be mentioned.
Yes, I forgot about that.
No,
I shouldn't
not a
forget because it's
small
very
matter.
important. It's a great honor.
Yeah, it is.
I must have low self-esteem since I didn't remember it.
No.
No,
just,
but
just,
what
just
happened
noblesse
was-
oblige,
Yes, right.
disconcern,
Right.
the lack
What
of
happened,
concern with another detail of
My
my
union,
greatness. Yeah.
the Professional
Yeah.
Staff Congress of City University,
Yeah.
I'm a delegate from BMCC, and they decided to make me the member of the Executive Council, which determines the policy of the union. There's a 27-member Executive Council.
And how many members does that involve? I mean, how many people are involved in that?
The 27 members make policy for
Yeah.
25,000 members of the union.
Wow.
25 members.
That's
of the-
huge.
Yeah.
And what does that include? Just downtown or where?
Well, all the
Not all of CUNY.
all of CUNY.
Wow.
All the city colleges in
CUNY
CUNY.
is-
The
CUNY?
graduate school,
Yeah.
this CUNY law, all the components of
Well,
CUNY.
congratulations,
Well, thank
man.
you.
You're there 1 of 27.
the election is going right now,
Uh-huh.
but we've got only one slate. We had no opposition. So come May, I will be in that position for the next 3 years. Provided I don't do what Silver or Skello did, what the Democrat and the Republican did.
Well, no, but that's a responsibility. CUNY is emerging as a major institution. If I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure, but who's the guy that writes for the New York Times? The famous guy. Who's
There's
at
someone.
Huh?
For on what?
On economics. The guy who was at Princeton and writes a...
Oh, you're talking about, well, I don't know if it's printed. The ones I know on economics are Paul Krugman.
Paul Krugman.
Yes.
Paul Krugman was at Princeton. I think he's joined CUNY.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yes,
Yeah,
he has. You're
he's
right,
joined-
he has.
That's
He
big
has.
time stuff.
Right,
And you
right.
got other people who are that CUNY. You got Stanley there. Stanley Gronowicz has
Right.
been there. And you got this other guy, Haney or something like that. He's a Marxist scholar, major. They're getting serious economic power there at the CUNY school.
Well,
it
unfortunately,
seems to me.
we don't have a contract. We've been almost going on 6 years now without a contract.
What does that mean? Why? And
But
what does it
well,
mean?
because they haven't come up with an offer. And they
Who's
haven't.
they?
Well, the CUNY Central, CUNY
Yeah.
administration, which moved to 42nd Street from 80th Street, has not come up with an economic offer because the state has not come up with something.
Well, is there a threaten? Does it threat seriously the educational mission of?
I
the
would
CUNY?
argue it does because most of the teaching at CUNY is done now by adjuncts. I myself am an adjunct, and we'd like job security. Although I've made myself pretty indispensable in terms of my work with the students, it's important to the students understand that the average adjunct in City University, who does most of the teaching, earns $20,000 a year, whereas the administrators, without, let's say, PhDs, without first-rate educations, make the vice presidents, let's say, and every college has 3 or 4 vice presidents, so you're talking about 60 of these people, not counting the president, makes $200,000 to $250,000 a year.
Yeah, right.
And
you've also had a lot of association with to hardly paying attention to, but the students.
oh yes,
Socrates made to drink Socrates was for corrupting the youth.
right.
Remember? Was
Well,
that not the charge?
I
think there
recruited
was
the
for-
editor of the newspaper in my class. The first issue, she was in my class on a Sunday morning, and I said, "Who wants to edit the newspaper? We need some."
You got a
newspaper.
wonderful woman who did that first issue.
Yes.
It was a wonderful issue. I remember
Yara
that.
Cedeno, right?
And now, are you, as the third issue is about to come out? This is what April 16,
right.
2015, and they're about to come out with another issue, and that's going to, or you are a faculty advisor to student
Government.
the government,
And to CUNY Divest.
and there's that puny divest.
And I also work on the newspaper.
Right, you give encouragement to
Right,
that.
and I
So
also
you're
recruited the
corrupting
new
youth. You're
the new
corrupting
editor,
youth.
the new editor in chief.
Well, that's what they got
recruited.
Socrates for, corrupting the youth.
Alexandra Klugar. She is a senator on student government, and she's taken on the role and has done a fabulous job. And it's just about to come out. I was hoping to have it on the program
Oh, we
today.
should have. We had it the
but the
last.
next program.
Yeah, the next program.
The next program will have
issue
it.
number. Maybe we'll start making it a weekly. You
Right,
know, or,
exactly.
you know, putting
Well, we'd
something up.
love to. It's hard though because you know this is a 2-year college.
Yeah.
Students have tremendous responsibilities. It
Yeah,
used to be free tuition. Obama called for free tuition for community colleges.
Yeah, he did. Is there
And
any
we
chance
had-
of that getting through, or what? Or what? I
Well,
don't
we're
know
going
what
to
the
be working
chances-
on it. One of the, you know, the students are organizing to have him implement this program.
When I got out of the Army, I was drafted into the Army back
Mm-hmm.
in the between the end of the Korean and the beginning of the Vietnam War. They still had the draft. Remember, I had to go
Mm-hmm.
in the Army. I didn't want to. I had to go in the Army for 2 years and everything. But when I got out of the Army, I went back to the university, and I never thought, well, I guess I had GI Bill. That would be
Mm-hmm.
part of what's coming out of that Second War year period and everything. But I never had any thought about economics at all. And now they're coming out of university with a huge debt burden. All the students across the
Now
line
these, you know,
you know what's
tens of
happened?
thousands of debt, and of course, this has helped promote the Occupy movement and promoted the opposition to the system because the current generation, you see all these guys sitting in Starbucks, in this case, many educated
Yeah.
students without jobs, male students, female students, they're without jobs or forced to take very low-paying jobs. And this is not going to work. This is the projection into the future as we're going to have a social explosion. It's already clear on the streets.
You think so?
Of course, we've seen this with the
Occupy.
Black Lives Matter
Yeah,
movement.
I can't believe it.
You
What's
know.
going on? The police are shooting them down like a shooting gallery. For
Except-
crap.
well,
but
no,
they're
it's
capturing them on video now, so
capturing
they're
on
not
video.
being able to get away with it like they have been able to do in
Yeah, it was always
police state kind of activity.
Well, it's more than quasi. I would argue
would
it's
think?
very it is a police state at this
Well,
point.
there have been police states that are worse, but it's
no,
still there.
we've had
and there
300.
are still some courts.
We've had
and
300 deaths in the last years at the last year at the hands of the police
It could have
for
been.
unarmed people, and these
Yeah.
people are unarmed, and it's racist.
Yeah, but there's a difference between that and an all-out police state.
Well, we have a lot of surveillance. We have
down that path that we could go even more if we allow things to drift.
Certainly, we're heading in that direction.
Yeah,
I
that's
see
the
no
direction.
evidence to the contrary. I see no serious attempt to deal with the problems of jobs, education, healthcare, housing. Very little on the environment. I mean, it's clear that the two-party system is completely corrupt. With
Well,
the latest
okay.
indictment, it's bipartisan corruption. There's so many indictments in New York State, you could actually create a new legislature with this. And a lot of it is being promulgated by real estate. The one guy, Litwin, is 100 years old, he gave $1 million to Cuomo. He's involved with the Skellos, and he's involved with Silver. He's involved with the public.
Those are
The Skello is the state senator.
Albany, right?
You know,
Yeah.
He's the. This is in today's Times.
Oh, I didn't see the time.
Well, he was. They're having an
Yeah.
investigation of him and his son, and he's about to be indicted
On corruption?
on corruption, on taking money, on no bid contracts, or shall we say, taking a higher bid because he has some connection rather than the low bid, doing work, charging for work that hasn't been done.
But there's a lot of things that, in the drift of things that are going on, that wouldn't be indictable. They're just an inevitable drift of things the way they're going, which are heading for a crevasse of some sort.
Well,
or,
I mean, it's all about
you know,
this. I carry
okay,
this
all about
around.
what? What do you carry around? What?
You can't do anything without the money. Cesspool. That was when Malcolm Smith was busted 2 years ago. That was the headline in the
You can't
Post.
do anything without.
Well, that's politics in New York. It's all about the effing money. That's what they say. Here it is. Now, both the Post and the News had identical headlines back
On the
April
same day?
3rd,
Or
on the
just-
same day,
Isn't
April
that something?
3rd,
How did-
2013.
Which PR firm pulled that off?
I don't know,
Yeah,
but there
right.
it is. But that was Smith, and he was
That's
the...
interesting. You saved those. Good
I
for you.
saved them because I knew
Did
it was
you?
going to
Let me hold
happen
them up.
again.
Let me hold them up. That's really good. What's the date? Let me hold
April
that up.
3rd, 2000.
That's some good for you.
2 years
April
ago.
3, 1913.
2013.
Or 2013, of course. And this is April 3. So here's the New York Post, and here's the Daily News on that date.
Yes.
And they're both exactly the same. You can't do anything without the money.
And here
And so they're
is
wrecking-
January 23rd of this year. Here's Silver, bombshell, again.
Well,
20
you do
years
have a
ahead
good-
of Well, but, no, I'm a political historian.
Yeah,
So
that's
this
true.
is
That's
this is
true.
what it's all about.
Yeah,
I mean, it's all about the money and not about the people, and that's wrong, and it's got to stop. And if it
What
doesn't
is
stop, it's
the-
going to end in the streets, and it's going to end badly.
And the trend is not good.
The trend is not good. I don't see any silver lining here for the people. That is.
So what are you? You're a prognosticator or something? What do you think that's happening? Okay, I don't know where to dive into that and everything. What is the? One of the things they will say is, well, have you read Thomas Piketty?
No, I haven't.
You're aware?
Yes.
Yeah, he's being read by everybody.
That's good.
Of note in the political
Well, I
system.
guess I'm not of note.
No. For one thing, it's economics that is so obscure,
Yeah.
but so relevant. But he's being read by all the opinion
fine,
from the
but I mean,
president and the
look.
World Bank and everybody. And it's essentially he's saying that we've got a system, particularly with the digitization and the robotization, that is undercutting the human input to the productive process. And that's the only way we've had to distribute any buying power to the people writ large in a society where the assets are all owned by a tiny plutocratic class all throughout history. And the problem is that you got a tremendous capability to provide, let's say, solar energy, infrastructure, all kinds of things that could be done that we have a capability of doing to serve the human society in a productive way and so forth, but they don't have a way of distributing effective
Well,
buying
they
power
offshore.
to the masses
Yes, but they
in order
offshore.
to clear the
Look,
market.
there's $21 trillion.
And that's being read by the leaders of
Yeah,
the system.
well, good. Let them read. But the point is, the facts are there's $21 trillion offshored in accounts. This came out a couple of years ago
How much?
in the Guardian. 21 trillion.
Wait a minute.
More,
That's
more
a-
than the GDP of Japan and the U.S. combined. Okay, it was in the Guardian 2 years ago. And there's been enough exposés of this.
Did they document it? How can they
course
document
they
it if it's so
document.
well hidden? It's
Well,
so
it's
well
sitting
hidden
there.
that there's no way you can get into any of those Swiss banks and anything like
Well, it's
that.
the
where
Swiss
it's
banks,
hidden.
exactly.
Yeah, they
precisely.
got a thing
They
going,
offshore,
and it's inviolable.
and that's right.
They,
and
they
what,
can just get away with
And
hiding
you have
money.
the head of the Federal Reserve Bank, Bernanke. You know, what's he doing right now? He just came into a hedge fund. So there's a lot of double dealing and a lot of conflict of interest against the interests of the people and against the environment. And they're not doing anything serious.
These movements are stirring.
Yes, of
There's
course.
hope in the movements.
Well, there's
and-
hope in the movements, but it's not going to end well. We had the Arab Spring of a couple of years ago. It's turned into a nightmare.
That's
You have
true.
a military dictatorship in Egypt, fully supported by the United States, that's butchering people left and right. So that's the result of the Arab Spring. And, you know, it's going to end very badly, and it's going to spread here, and it's already spreading here. It's nonviolent. But you cannot keep killing unarmed civilians and expect to get away with it.
Well, they've been. You're a historian, and if you look back over the history of the human condition, it's always been the few people, whether they were knights or whatever, who could just beat the bejesus out
Well,
of the serfs.
it's when people started
And
to
it
own
was,
land.
It was slavery.
Harold, it's only been around for 10,000 years.
What,
Okay,
that-
this notion of the
Neolithic, yeah.
serfs,
Well,
of
it
the
had to-
landowners and the serfs, and class warfare.
Well,
okay?
10,000 years is pretty long.
Well,
and
it's
that's
pretty
the
long,
beginning
but
of agriculture.
That's
yeah.
correct.
Yeah,
When the ice cap
civilization.
melted, now we're going to have return to the ice caps.
Well, we
if-
just
with
don't know
global
very
warming
well.
in
We
the
don't-
Northeast.
We don't know very well what it was. It's about 190,000 years we were here as hunters and gatherers, wandering around in the wilderness, probably eating a lot of carrion or doing anything to survive in a terrible, grim situation. One could project. It wasn't some happy, beautiful
No, but it was.
paradise.
But there was less distinctions among people's work than there are now. There was less disparity in control or in use of assets than there is now. It's never been so unequal on a global basis, and there've never been so many people
Are you sure?
unemployed.
Are you sure? Do we have a good way of judging that? I mean, in Pharaoh's time, it was pretty uneven in terms of the people who had to drag those stones across the desert. I don't think that would have been pleasant. I don't know if they could have co-opted them with some propaganda campaign that you're doing the good work of the Lord or some sort of creation story or something. But, you know, it
When you
seems to me
destroy
it's just always
yes.
been a few people run
Yeah,
everything.
not always.
Well,
Historically
when
speaking.
is there an example that wasn't that pattern where you have a situation where a few people, to be considered in the moment, maybe it's 1,000 years like Rome or something, to be politically legitimate historically, it's always been that somebody would have a bigger club than somebody else, and they could conquer. And then they beat the bejesus out of people. Then they give them creation stories and propaganda, and they build a whole thing about how our people are better than the other people. And that seems to me to be pretty much the history of the world, and it continues.
Well, I'm glad you talked about the creation story because I'm
okay.
drag out of here.
Hold it up. I want to hold it up. Just happened to have in my
No,
hand
this was not planned in
letters
advance.
from the earth, uncensored writings of that wit and wisdom of Mark Twain. God bless
Our
him.
greatest writer.
You think so? Really?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
I mean,
Better
after
than
reading
Joyce?
this, well,
Different.
Joyce was an American.
Oh. Well. Okay. Our American.
Our American.
Not
yes.
just the Anglo-Saxon. Okay. Anyway. Yeah. So that's good. You just happen to carry. This is the kind of literature you carry around.
Yes.
This subversive trash of Mark Twain.
This consoles me.
Yeah,
Because
that's
there's
right.
somebody who feels the same way I do.
Yeah, right. That's right. Anyway, it really is getting really very, very hairy in a lot of ways. But also, there's just a great reaction to it, don't you think? And is there hope in that? Is there any hope of coming upon some? Let's say, I had a talk with a guy today who was talking about minimum wage. They want to try and make it $9 or something. They want to try and make it $15 out west or something. Minimum wage. Is there something to be said for pressure that could grow enough of Piketty's arguments and others? So you got to get some effective buying power into the hands of the
All
people.
right, so you want to deal with the buying power issue? Let's deal with the buying power issue.
Okay, yeah.
In Austria, people are given money to buy things. Okay?
Could we do that too? Is that
We
something
could do
could be done? How do
rather
you
than
give
the
it to 'em?
situation we have now. They get a guaranteed minimum income. Now, what we have here today is annually $150 billion is paid out by state and local governments to give welfare to people who work at Walmarts and at McDonald's and elsewhere. We, the taxpayer, have to bear the burden of supplying the profits to the McDonald dynasty, to the Walton dynasty.
That they would have to give up if they
and
paid a decent wage? Is that what you're saying?
family, yes.
Yeah, okay.
In other words, they pay their employees so low that they can go on welfare. And that welfare amounts to $150 billion a year taken out of my...
But hasn't that been the case all along?
No, it's much worse now.
Worse
It's much
than
worse.
the Depression? I mean, you know, people would work for bread. I mean, they would do anything because
But the
things
Depression
were so...
was a
if they
very
make
short
it so,
period,
well,
Harold. This is getting worse and worse and worse
You think
and
it
worse.
is,
Of
right?
course it is. They have no solution. If the guy who ran the Federal Reserve for so long, Greenspan, right, for 20, 30 years,
Right.
he said, oh, I guess Ayn Rand was wrong. Well, of course she was
wasn't
wrong. It was
Ayn Rand,
absurdity, it was fantasy, it was magical
that
thinking.
Chicago school was really
Yes,
in the
that's just
saddle and all that.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It doesn't add up. So when he was presiding over this, and he said, well, I made a big mistake. Well, great. And then his successor, one of his successors now, is now heading up a hedge fund. I mean, this is what it is. They come in, they jerk us around as taxpayers through the Federal Reserve, printing money whenever the banks need it. The banks failed. Where's the bailout for the people? Where's the bailout? The banks were bailed out. Where's our bailout? Why the subsidy for the Waltons? Because they pay their employees so low that their employees go on welfare and then take out money from the people who are working. $150 billion a year.
Remember when Mr. Paulson came in, what was it, 2008?
Oh.
2007? He came in, and Sorkin made it so beautiful in that Too Big to Fail film he put together, what happened, and it was just right there at the time of the election. What a dramatic thing happened at the time of that election.
Otherwise, Obama would not have been president. It was only get worse for the people on the bottom, and because it's a racist
you
society.
went too fast about... about that period of the election when he was elected.
Well,
something you said something. I
the
didn't get.
economy collapses 6 weeks
Yeah.
before Obama is elected.
Right, amazing.
Up until the point of the collapse of the economy, McCain was ahead.
Okay, go on. Yeah.
And therefore, people who were racist but on the bottom voted for Obama because Bush was such a disaster when it came to the national economy
Yeah.
and to what he did to Iraq with an invasion
Horrible.
under false pretexts.
Biggest mistake in the history of the nation.
No, it
maybe.
isn't.
You
It
don't
isn't.
think
They
so?
got the oil.
What
Exxon,
was bigger?
No, excuse me. Exxon, largest or second largest corporation in this country, was thrown out of Iraq in 1972. Exxon came by Saddam Hussein. Exxon came back into Iraq 2012. End of story. It was blood for oil, and it was all about sacrificing the people in Iraq and in this country in order to satisfy the oil companies
Well,
and the oil auto nexus
Yeah, well,
that runs things.
It seems to be one of the big. I don't know. Vietnam was a terrible business, but anyway,
Vietnam was because they were testing China, as was
okay.
Korea,
Right.
because both countries border China.
Yeah, and testing George Kennan's containment and all that kind of
Well,
stuff coming out
but
of
the point is that the George Kennan's containment was directed toward the Soviet Union.
Well, it was
whereas
directed
China,
toward the heartland and all the extension
Yes.
outward and all that geopolitical reading of the geography. But anyway, back to the time of that election and everything, and or when that was going on, and then they had securitized all these loans, put them out on the bond market and everything. They had collapsed and all those subprime things, all that. But then Hank Paulson came in and he had to go and beg down on one knee to Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic caucus there in the Capitol or somewhere. And it was 3 pages. Remember? It was a 3-page thing. A 3-page thing that had to be got through the Congress that week. That week. They were arguing this in the press and people in the literature, and everybody was saying, well, there's something to this. We got to listen. That week they had to get that through the Congress and have it signed by the President of the United States by the end of next week at the outside, or the whole world was going to collapse. That was
I
the
don't buy
argument
that.
they were
First
making.
of all, that was
Do
a
you
Punch
think
and
they were
Judy
right?
show. No,
No,
it was
you
a
don't
Punch-
think that was
It was a
true?
Punch and Judy show, but rather a Hank and Nancy show.
Well, okay, so
Okay.
you're
In other
taking
words,
exception to what was
No.
accepted generally by the establishment. Yeah, I guess we got to do this.
You got to
and
scare the people so they could come up with the money.
And you think it was all?
Bush came
it
up
wasn't
with
true.
700. No,
That argument was not true.
of
They
course
made that
it was
argument
true.
to boil out the
They
money.
held
had
us
to do
up.
it.
They had to do it. But why don't they give back the profits that they're making now to the people
Well,
as penalty
well,
for
we at
what they
least in-
subjected to
well-
the average American to
Well, for
in
those,
2008
but that was that principle.
and 2009.
That happened. That happened.
But
The
Harold,
president
it's-
signed it by the 2 weeks or something like that because it was in the general understanding we cannot let the
Yes,
whole world of finance collapse completely
Harold,
into an awful
when
worse
they were
than
making,
depression.
excuse me, when they were making profits for 25 years straight, did they share those profits with the people? No. When they lost because of their own ignorance and greed, the word here is greed. Then they came for a bailout, and we were forced, the American people were forced to
We
bail
were forced
them out.
to do it, and the nation accepted
And why?
that.
The nation
accepted that we had to
because
do
people
that, by and
cannot-
large, in the-
they
in the
don't accept
opinion
it.
class.
People. No, I'm not talking about the average person doesn't accept it. The average person has
Well, the
nothing to
average
do with
person
the
is-
politics. No, excuse me.
No.
Excuse me. We had a mayoral election.
Yeah.
De Blasio,
Oh,
de
afterwards,
Blasio
that
wins.
was after,
Or
yeah.
let's give you an example.
Yeah.
73% he got of the vote.
Yeah, that was
Right.
amazing.
No, it's not amazing because only 23% of the eligible electorate voted. The worst since before women got the right to vote in 1917.
I didn't realize until just the other day how closely de Blasio was connected with Barack Obama. He was an advisor, major advisor to him at the
Barack
presidential
Obama
period.
and de Blasio are separated in age by 4 months.
Okay, well,
And they were both at Columbia at the same time in the early 80s.
and they were he was associated with the campaign, de Blasio, with,
and
with
de
Obama.
Blasio was
and
Hillary,
Obama won the presidency.
And Hillary Clinton, de Blasio was Hillary Clinton's campaign manager in 2000.
Anyway, so you take exception with at that time, generally accepted by opinion leaders and everything, that yes, we had to bail out the banks, temporary measure, we had to do it, or the world would totally fall apart. You will not accept that as possible.
No, I will say take over the banks, put the bankers in jail where they belong, where they belong, because they looted this country. They have a lifestyle. They're environmentally unsound because they consume far more than the average person, and you don't need all that conspicuous consumption, as Thorstein Veblen said way back in the late 19th century.
Well, argued like a good socialist or a socially representative. Or,
well, I stand for the people and the environment. I do not stand for the parasites and the predators.
Okay. Well, then that's interesting to me because we've got the luxury of being able to take that kind of an argumentation now that the system has been saved by that action. No, but it was. I think it may be irresponsible to say, well, let's just let it all collapse.
I didn't say that.
No, they're making that premise.
I said they made the mistake.
They made the premise.
They should pay for it.
No, well,
they should pay a penalty.
Okay, that's proposing.
And it should be taking away their control.
That's proposing an alternative to that which was accepted by the political class of the world.
But the political class of the world didn't all accept it. There are a lot of people that look, the people in power are in power because they're corrupt in most cases.
Well,
we see this in New York State dramatically. We see that we have plenty of empirical evidence. I mean, we have dozens now in the last 5 years of legislators on the state and local level here in New York State. I'm a New Yorker, native New Yorker, okay? And I know the history of this city.
You do.
And it's periodically looted.
Yeah,
I did a book called Race and Class Politics in New York City.
You did indeed, really good. I've got it on my shelf,
Before the Civil War. But really, it continued right after this corruption. But we got away with it. They got away with it because no country sacrificed so little and gained so much from the 2 world wars as the United States.
Oh, yeah, but that's true. That were true.
The whole geopolitical landscape has qualitatively
from Britain
changed.
to America,
And then now it is multipolar, and people in Washington and London do not want to accept this.
Okay, well then let's back up. Let's back up to that period when that was being done, and he also bailed out the Mr. Obama. And the first thing he bailed out the auto industry in Detroit. They were going into skids and everything, and they did that. And all these defensive measures were done, and the claim was made. You're going to deny the claim. The claim was made that it had to be done because you cannot have a massive destruction of the existing system that is in place and all the institutions that are associated with that, or else there would be absolute total chaos.
You bail out the banks.
No, you had to.
But Harold, you're missing my point.
No, I'm
talking about ownership of the banks by the people, as they have in North Dakota.
Yeah, okay.
I don't believe in private ownership.
I'm trying to get to that. I'm trying to get to that. But that's the point. You understand? That's what was made and sold to the public relations and all of that, and it was accepted. Okay?
It was accepted. People who protested were unoccupied.
Now,
for God's sakes.
I understand you don't agree with that generally accepted thing by our political leadership internationally and nationally.
Because they're millionaires.
No,
they're not average people.
Well,
that's why they accept it.
Finish the point.
But that's why they accept it.
So you've got a. It's okay. It's an ideological view. You have things.
No, it's not ideological. The rich are in charge. Whether it's Pelosi,
always
she's a not always.
Well, when weren't they? When
various socialist and communist movements took over.
There was no communist movie that was anything other than,
We had Bolshevism, we had Maoism.
Yeah.
Okay, but they had to develop their societies.
Yeah,
they were
some
premature.
problems developed there.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. You can't build socialism.
That's what I was trying to get.
But you can't build socialism on ashes.
Okay, now wait a minute. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, what I'm trying to say is, what's the alternative? That the system that we've inherited out of history with all the institutions and so forth, what would be an alternative way for the world organizational assumption that would serve the interests of everyone, including the masses, in a progressive way that the times now allow technologically that have not been there historically? And what do you think of the term socialism? And should we have perhaps nationalized the banks, socialized and everything? So why don't you spell out what we might have done at that crucial moment, or let's talk about it now. Because the same issues are there, except we have the luxury of having some continuity with the past that has some possibility of maybe you got unemployment down to 5.5 now
Well, we
rather
have
than 8
some,
and all that.
We have
so
some.
What's the
it's
alternative?
More recent experience about the treachery, incompetence, and greed of the banking establishment. Okay?
Well, Mr. Twain had that down too.
He had it down to a science.
Yeah, and
so
Karl
did,
Marx had it down.
So
in
did
the
Herman
19th
Melville.
Century.
So did Herman.
Yes, and
very
a lot of the
famous,
artists, yeah.
wonderful work that he wrote in
No, but
1857
in practical
called
terms,
"The Confidence Men," about the politicians
yes.
and the financiers.
Yeah, we understand that. We understand
fine.
that. Yeah.
Practical terms, you take
Vance
the banks
Packard
over.
and
You
all that,
have the banks taken over, receivership by
now,
public
you're proposing
entities.
what? And these things are all interconnected. They're still with us. The tendrils of that are still there, holding us like an octopus. The history that we're coming out of is holding us
Frank Norris
captive.
used the term octopus to describe this way back in 1905. Frank Norris, the novelist, the octopus.
I don't know that. There was the octopus. I didn't know.
No,
who was it?
Frank Norris.
Frank Norris. The octopus, I remember.
Was a name of
there was
a
trail
novel.
of the octopus. There was a book, Trail of the Octopus.
No, there was an octopus novel.
Yeah.
Muckraking novel of the early
well, do you see
20th century. It's
there's
been
always
done.
been
It's been there
troublemakers.
and done that. Not troublemakers.
There's always been troublemakers.
People who call it like it is and are not trimmers.
Well, they're called
and not like-
troublemakers
no,
by
they're-
the people who
they're
don't
called
call it
honest.
like
They're
it is.
talking truth to power.
Okay, well,
They're not into pedigree and being a parasite, a social parasite.
well, you have a decided view of things, but what is necessarily?
I don't want to
but
bore. I don't want to
it?
bore the listener. We have to go, we have to be,
But is there an
dramatic and
alternative?
histrionic
What
here.
is the alternative? Where is it heading? Let me just pose something really quick that just informs my whole work and life and everything is like that. Is a two-vector thing in terms of the extension of human consciousness. Just to go real
Listen,
quick,
you have to be able to
200,000
eat.
years.
We have to eat before we can
200,000
think,
years,
Harold.
200,000 years we've been
I
here.
have students that have to choose between MetroCard and lunch.
I know.
I'm not interested. I'm not theorizing and philosophizing is cool, but we have a lot of serious practical matters.
What can people of goodwill or people who can see all this dysfunction? Why the dysfunction in such a degree that it's growing now exponentially? The dysfunction is becoming clear, more clear all the time. Even though we did do what we were supposed to do, we're tied into all the things out of history.
It's aggravated in part also
Are you
by
optimistic
climate
for,
change. No, I'm a Gramscian in the sense of optimism of the will, pessimism of the intellect. I'm a Twainite or a Melvilleite or a Dickinsonite. She was most productive at the height.
So great.
Dickinson, I should say. She was writing her.
I was thinking of Dickens.
Well,
he
Dickens
was pretty good too.
But Dickinson wrote her best poetry and her most poetry.
Emily Dickinson.
Yes. Yeah. In the 3 years when the Civil War in this country was the bloodiest. Okay.
Dazzle Gradually was one of the best poems she ever came up with.
Right. She was. I consider her to be the best American poet.
You do, really?
Yes.
That's interesting.
Because she.
But what I'm trying to get at is, what are the possibilities? Maybe that it's hard to see because we're so busy fighting over or reified institutional assumptions that get good guys and bad guys and all of that. What is the likelihood of the human prospect? Let's think 5, 10, 50 years out. Where do we stand, and what would be the way?
It's going to be worse. It's going to end in the streets because the politicians are totally corrupt, as we've just seen with the most recent
No, but that is not ending. That's in the streets, and then what? And then what would that do?
We have to take over the schools, take over the factories, run the factories by the workers.
Well, how about
run the schools by the parents and the children? Run City University by the faculty and the students. And the administrators have to come from the faculty, as they did traditionally, instead of outside overseers who come in to Plantation CUNY and try to pander to the financial establishment and not to the needs of the students when it comes to jobs and education
You're
for
going
jobs.
into individual things like that. What I'm trying to say is...
Well, individual, I'm talking practical.
What is the let's say, just political philosophy, or what do we call it that we want? There's the term cooperative, there's Mondragon, there's all this kind of stuff. there's also the term socialism, a
Yes, but
proud term.
I'm a member of the Park Slope Food Co-op. I believe in food co-ops.
You believe in co-op.
Everybody's working together. Everybody has to work. Nobody sits there and gives orders. We all work together. Yes, there
What
is
if somebody doesn't want to work?
They're going to have to, then they don't eat.
Then they don't eat. Okay, so the thing still holds. If you don't
I mean,
work,
obviously, if they have a
if
medical
you don't pull
condition,
your job,
if
then
they
you
have a
don't
medical
eat.
condition,
Yeah.
fine, that's something else.
No, not a
But
medical.
Obama,
they just don't want to work.
excuse me, Obama went down to South America. We just finished the Organization of American States
Yeah.
conference.
Yeah, right.
And it
yeah.
was they could not sign off on a final agreement because he alone, among all the people there, refused to sign a pledge that health care is a human right. Okay? That's what he did on behalf of the pharmaceuticals and the
That's
insurance
an indictment
companies.
of President Obama.
That's
then.
an indictment of the bipartisan, corrupt, two-party system. That's what it's an indictment
What I'm
of.
trying to get at is what form would it take?
What do you mean, what
I mean,
form?
what is the
You
answer?
don't allow people
What
to
is the
make
answer?
profit off of
Wait a
health
minute,
care
I'll
or
say-
education.
Yeah, but you're saying a lot of premises. And
No premises, no
outlaw
profit.
outlaw
No,
the
outlaw
market,
profit when you
outlaw-
have education and health care, and you have an equitable tax system. You don't allow $21 trillion to be offshored without paying taxes.
Well, okay. Should we outlaw Wall Street? Should we outlaw banks?
No, I
Should we
didn't say outlaw
what,
banks.
you know, what,
I said nationalize. You have a, you
well,
have
nationalize is okay. So
Harold, in North Dakota, you
Yeah.
have a state bank. It's been around from
Yeah, I
1918.
understand. I understand
and
that,
it-
yeah.
and it's one of the few states. There are only 2 states in the black, and that was before
That's right.
oil.
Yeah, it's-
okay,
that
because
was
they have a
before
state.
oil or after?
Yeah,
The oil
before-
would have done it, yeah.
Since 1918, before oil. Okay, they've been in the black because they have a bank that is state-run. That is the bank.
Is that the secret thing that we want to get? Let's just make a premise. Let's do away with the private sector. Let's have everything be within a government system, and we could call it
Yeah, but we have a
socialism.
But the point
and
is
that's
we
what
have
we're going to.
right now. Harold,
Yeah.
we have privatization of profit, socialization of loss. When the banks were making money for 25 years, they did not share their profits.
Yeah, you're
when
talking
they went
about the-
when they went belly up, they got $750 billion from Bush. I'm sorry, $700 billion from Bush and $750 billion from Obama. They were bailed out. Where is the bailout for the people? I ask for the third time.
Well-
they bailed the banks out. Then they need to be taken over. They need to be
Well, all right,
nationalized.
taken over by
By a
the
people
state?
entity.
The
No,
state-
by,
the
no, there are
people
plenty of
represented
people.
by
There are
this-
plenty of people in economics.
You're going over too far off
okay.
camera.
Okay.
This is television. You got to stay on camera.
Okay, but I'm, don't forget, I was in the theater too.
Oh, were you? Oh my God! No wonder. I begin to understand you
But I
much
left
better now. You're
because
one of
I-
those theater people. Oh
No,
my God!
When I went to Columbia, I was in the premiere production of Michel de Galderode's Pantaglaise.
Oh God, you got it all, man.
And I was reviewed in the New York Post when it was
Speaking of theater, I want to give a deep.
and I played a general.
Okay, I
And
want to give a deep, for a couple of lost souls that have happened over the last few days and
Yeah.
weeks. In fact, just days. And one is Danny Schechter passed.
Oh, it was terrible.
What a terrible loss! A general,
Absolutely. He was
way ahead of the
he was
curve.
unbelievable.
Beautiful guy. Just a month or so ago, I didn't even realize that he had that. He was so productive.
Well,
I couldn't.
pancreatic cancer goes
And I
very
found,
quick.
Yeah, I know. Apparently, yeah. But anyway, and then I just found out our friend on the telephone, Judith Molina, died.
Yes.
Just a couple of days
Well,
ago.
they were path
Judith
breakers.
Molina and the
Julian
Living
Beck.
Theater.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
Julian Beck and Hannon Reznikov and that whole gang. That's two
They
losses
were pioneers,
of
in the theater,
yeah.
of American theater. That's
And
right.
it's also, they were not, but again, that's just a personal thing.
No,
What
but
a
it's an
loss.
important. It's
Yeah.
they were
They were
were
really
all
major intellectual
important
critiquing
contributors to journalism,
Things, yeah.
to film, and to theater.
And to
the three of them.
improving the human condition.
precisely.
Which you are.
Yes.
I would say that's what you are.
That's
But
right.
you don't want to answer about this. What would be the overall system? What do we have to? What
you
is
don't
the,
have to call
what
it a
is
name,
the
we just have to
endemic-
implement it.
Let's say. Okay. Let's say evil exists in some people and not in others. Or what is the reason for all the mess ups and the unjust situation that seems to have prevailed throughout the whole human condition. And what is the possibility that we might be in a situation where we can get over...
In 2 words, class rule. Class rule.
They had Daedalus say, the history is a nightmare from which I'm attempting to awaken. It's a nightmare of insufficiency that's been the whole human
but
condition.
it's an insufficiency of the proper distribution, of equitable distribution.
No, it wasn't there to be distributed. If you were in the wilderness and you didn't have any food, there wasn't anything to be distributed.
We can't jump to the wilderness. We have either in the modern society
Let's
or
jump to the modern society. What's the answer to all the seeming dysfunction we can see, and it's even being seen by the people in the establishment
equitable
now?
sharing.
What?
Equitable sharing.
What form does it take? I mean, like, for instance,
I'm not going to give it a label. I'm
well,
telling
you said
what
take
has to
over. And so should
the
we
banks
eliminate
have to be
a lot of people?
The banks should be nationalized.
All right, but a bigger thing than that is a lot of people from a leftist perspective are saying you have to get rid of the private sector, private ownership, and the labor theory of value lives.
Not across the board. Harold, they're just these sweeping statements.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to get at, rather than something so abstract as the people.
Excuse me, once you have banks that are too big to fail, the system has failed the people.
Well, if you were midway through the 1,000 period of hereditary families in Europe and you said you'd better have some knights to protect your claim to legitimacy because of dynastic blood or something, then you would have had to cut it short because it had another 500 years to go after the fall of Rome, that it was hereditary political legitimacy backed up by knights and farmers, and armies that can beat down the bejesus out of the serfs who were picking up leaves on the estate. That was something that was destined to be there for 1,000 years.
Did you know, Harold,
what?
That the biggest loss of English life in one battle, do you know what it is?
Well, I hope it wasn't the Battle of Hastings, because it was Harold lost at the Battle of Hastings in 1066.
It was the Battle
Harold II.
Right, it was Battle of Toten.
What is that? Fill me in.
It was between Lancaster and York.
Okay.
And York won.
Okay.
And 28,000 men died in one day in that battle in 1461, I believe in August.
1461.
Near where York is. So it was the White Rose versus the Red Rose.
Yeah. Well,
from whence Lewis Carroll gets his...
Is that where it comes from?
Well, of course, he knew his English history.
Well, there was a lot of it,
yeah. Story, and it was a wonderful fantasy and children's story. But yes, it wasn't Gallipoli, or it wasn't Somme, or it wasn't Verdun. It was the English fighting the English.
How many lost?
28,000.
There have been losses of that much in the modern war.
I'm talking about 28,000.
In one battle,
in one battle, in one day.
Really? And there was no one battle lost like that? What about dropping the bombs on Hiroshima? What was that? You're talking about bachelors.
I'm talking about English.
Oh, English.
English, because you raised England in your allusion prior to my bringing this up. Yes.
Well, you did it because you asked me that, and I cottoned on because...
Well, you started talking about knights defending...
Well, no. Who defended the hereditary families of the dynastic period of 1,000 years after Rome?
They're living in
retainers. They're living in a castle with gold plates, and the serfs are like serfs.
Yes, but
we're like serfs.
But
the people have always been like serfs.
Not always.
Well, particularly they are. They still are.
I am for educating
in terms
the serf.
of the reality.
I came from a working class peasant background, and I had a first class education, and I mean to use it on behalf of the people. Not on behalf of the parasites and the predators. And my knowledge is devoted to that of serving the people. And this can happen to a lot of people, okay, if they had a decent education.
You think it's education, right?
Education is key.
You think
free
it's education
in
our
CUNY
educational
was from 1847 to 1975.
You think our educational institutions as they exist are able to get up an adequate education over to the young people coming up?
Not
or do you think
because they've been starved for resources. Okay.
Starved for resources, they're getting a great deal of support now, the educational systems.
Harold, I'm talking practically. 10 years ago, for the American History Social Project, which is based at the Graduate Center of City University, I went to Wingate High School in Brooklyn. Okay. And I went to an art class, and I saw these wonderful work this wonderful work being done by the student. I said, "Geez, this is fantastic. How do you do it?" She said, "I go out and buy the supplies." That is an international disgrace. It's a crime. You're starving the schools of the resources for the children. The budget for CUNY, the budget for public education has declined precipitously.
It has,
and
really?
Yes,
Has it
and
really?
it started under Cuomo Sr. And this current Cuomo in Albany, who has already received $1 million from the same real estate firm, Glenwood, who corrupted Silver and Skelos, Democrat and Republican, this Cuomo has not come up with the money for CUNY. All he went privately educated. Everywhere he went was private, religious schools, Fordham.
I'm happy to hear. I'm happy to hear.
He is an enemy of public education.
It's really interesting.
And he's an enemy of unions.
Yeah.
He's an enemy of the people.
Yeah, right. Well, you know, I'm really happy, you know, Coley and that, and Cynthia and you running and all that, and you got this political instinct, you got all this sense of fire. I wanted to make you aware of, you know, you've got Marco Rubio now, and you got, you know, these kind of people. There's room still within the right wing of the Tea Party movement of the Republican Party for another candidate to become their candidate. Maybe you could consider throwing your hat into that ring.
I'm not a right winger. I mean, these guys.
I'm making a joke, son.
I mean, the fix is in. It's going to be Jeb Bush.
You think that?
We'll sit here in a couple of years.
And who's going to win the election? It'll be Hillary and Bush. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, it's going to be hard to.
Speaking of dynastic families.
Wait a minute. It's Groundhog Day. It's deja vu. It's bad news.
Yeah, it really is. But I'm glad you're getting behind
But
that.
I'm supporting Jill Stein again. She's going to be running again.
Is she going to run Green?
She's already
announced, yeah. Yeah, she's
already
good.
announced.
I like Jill Stein.
Yeah, she was great.
Yeah.
And she's a pediatrician.
So
she
what
cares
is the
about
standard,
people.
What do they stand for in these large terms about the private sector? Well, one big division, private sector, public sector. You know, there's that. You got even Naomi Klein wants a mixed economy. You don't want to do away with the private sector.
Look, it's a question of political will. It's a question of how bad things get and which way people go. Nobody has a crystal ball. All I know is that things are going badly and getting worse. And every time I've been on this show, and this should be the fourth time since 1996, it's worse and worse and worse and worse. The economic conditions, the social conditions.
What's the question is, you only got about 30 seconds.
Well, certainly.
What's the answer, in a nutshell?
Guaranteed income.
Okay.
Jobs.
Oh.
Sharing the wealth.
Jobs? Why jobs? Why not just guaranteed income?
People have to work. People have to do something.
Why?
Why? Because people could just sit there. Their brain will get lethargic. Their neurons won't function properly. Their legs will. You have to exercise the mind. This, remember, is the computer. This is the wheels. And this is the engine. And you got to keep them in sync.
Let's do it. Let's
That's why I get up in front of YouTube and do my thing.
Sesame
Pick
Street,
up a nice
Sesame Street.
Exactly.
Well, there might be something
no more
to be
than,
said
it's got to
for
be
that.
a swifter beat than Sesame Street.
Yeah. Oh well. Okay. Well, that's the thing. It is. There's something. The media is important and everything like that. But again, back to Piketty. Piketty says you got. How do you get buying power into the hands of the people when the people are being cast off by an exponential increasing of robotics that is producing everything?
And the population is out of control. We have 7 billion people.
Okay. Well, listen. One of the tyrannies of this universe, and particularly in television's time, we run out of time. Tony, so good to see you.
Always.
Your pleasure, a friend of Conversations of the World. That's Anthony Gronowicz, with PhD, and as you can see, a right-wing, radical, crazy guy. But we need another one in the. I think you ought to get down to the Tea Party and just get into that. Announce. You could announce. There's still time.
Yeah,
okay?
I'm into green tea.
I will get a telephone call down to wherever that's done. Okay, thanks for viewing. We'll come back again tomorrow. Thanks, Tony, for coming in.
You're very welcome, Harold.
Yeah. Okay, tune in. We'll be coming back again. Tomorrow, and that's it. And we're out. I think we should be out by now.
Well, one reason I got so excited is it's so cold here.
I know.
It's like being in a refrigerator. I got to move around.
Got to keep those slaves moving, man. You know,
those neurons. Yes. Okay, cool.
So wait a minute. I got to get a couple things done here. It's so dark when you get out of here.
Yeah. Well, that's the bright lights.
Don't stumble.
I will not stumble.
You didn't need the water, did you?
No.
Okay. Well, but it's good to have, you know.
It's good. Yes, it is always good. Got to take this gizmo
Jack,
off.
how are? Good to see you. Good to see you. What happened with Mally? Did he leave or what?
Yeah, he did. And
He just walked
he didn't
away?
Give me my outro.
Why did he walk away?
I got you as a host, and I didn't get the. He said he was going to be upstairs.
He's not going to do it here now then? Okay, let me deal with it and find out if they're not.
Gloria left us.
The Gloria Messers has.
This feels like a sauna compared to
Yeah,
that
it's
studio.
cold in the studio.
It's colder in there.
Sign. Sign the release. I'm going to. Well, listen.
Don't worry.
You don't know how to do it, so you're supposed to.
Did you like it?
I did.
He was going to have to take
was a little
Sydney
too-
somewhere. I was
No,
going to
I
do a
do that.
program with
It's
you.
part of the-
He was going to
the
take Sydney,
drama.
so he had to call and say he can't do
All
it.
right. And do another
Sydney
one for
Aronowitz.
Stanley Aronowitz.
Stanley around.
I've known Stanley for 45 years.
I've known him for
No,
50.
this is for Jack.
I got to go
Okay.
upstairs.
You
and
ran
Yes.
for mayor.
Yes,
Yeah.
against de Blasio, of course.
Did you,
Could you take this off for me?
sure. Did you, invite Neddy with the Christmas party?
Who?
At her, at his Christmas party.
Yeah.
You've been there.
Oh, yeah, I've been there numerous times. Take this off here.
What do you do next? Do you go out for a drink at Chan?
What are your current political ambitions?
Right now, U.S. history.
You're not going to do it? You can't do it with me? Doing the program.
I already did all your graph.
Yes.
No, but you're not going to be there to do it? Oh, is that changed? That's changed. No.
Yeah, once we have you completed, we're going, we went back to the old model.
Salvatore?
If you need any assistance, you can call us.
Salvatore, just Salvatore.
I mean, you have your crew.
And does that hold for up here too?
No,
So
not
he's
as of
he's
yet.
aware.
Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Martha Chittery.
Pardon?
I have.
No, she doesn't know what to do. I mean, she knows something, yeah. But I didn't know that it changed. I thought you were going to help do it, and then she was going to be there.
Wait, so my release for.
Yeah.
Well, you've done it before, up until last week or
It's
something.
going to be the same thing.
They did. Yeah, yeah. Production
Has
staff.
Gloria
Yeah.
retired
Well, people do. He has. There's other people have. Well, not in the past. Past is what, a month or two?
Yeah, I mean. Oh, well, that
No,
makes
but
sense.
downstairs we've done it too.
We pulled out of that months ago. Yeah.
Okay.
Look up your
Really
files.
helped.
Just call. Yeah, you can call.
So I didn't know. So I'm lost. Unless there's somebody. I didn't know that. So I was just thinking. She didn't know how to do the machine. I don't know if she does or not. I don't know. Well, I'll just have to call it off, I guess, that's all. It's crazy, but okay. Okay. That doesn't make sense to me. So just so I get it straight, you have to have a crew person down there, and you guys aren't gonna help, except to set up the chairs or something? That's it?
Just like was
But in the other room, you can do it.
correct.
Correct,
Because
and
we
you'll do
haven't-
the whole thing through the whole
Because
thing?
we haven't fully recertified.
Yeah, okay, okay. It looks like we're screwed unless, if I can get somebody to do it, who knows how, or if she can try. Let me try, okay, we'll do it. We won't have any graphics, we won't have anything, she'll just push the button and record,
I mean,
okay?
does she?
No, I don't think she knows how to do it at all.
I mean, what happened? Did she tell you like it went wrong? 'Cause, like,
Well, you didn't put up any graphics at the end, you walked away. I didn't know you guys were walking away. I thought you were there like you are when you're in here. That's the way I've done it a number of times down there, in the immediate past,
I got
in my thinking, in my remembrance.
It's been a while since
Okay,
we
well,
had
I'll
this
just
here.
have her set it up, push button, okay, she'll do it, okay, and
Sorry.
no, I have to learn. I didn't know you changed things. It was a change that doesn't resonate with me,
Fair enough.
okay? Look, do you know how to do anything, honey?
Well, he showed me the titles, and I put the title up for you as.
Do you know how to mix cameras or anything? Do you know how to mix it? Go camera 1, camera 2?
Oh,
or
yeah,
anything?
yeah, yeah. I
You
did
do?
all of
Okay,
that. All
well-
the switching was done excellently.
Oh, you do know
But
how
I
to
couldn't
do.
pull up the title. He told me where to go down and up to, and then it didn't appear on the screen.
Do you know how to put titles into the machine?
Well, that's just typing it in.
Do you know how?
I could try.
Okay, because it's only us.
Yeah, it's only us.
It's us
chickens.
gonna have to do it, and that's something I didn't
Wow, a lot of
realize.
feedback.
Okay, where is the, okay.
Give this to the guests. Yeah.
No, I'm talking to myself, and I didn't know that they didn't have anybody there. Do you, how familiar are you with this room? Are you familiar, did you pass an exam or anything?
Yeah, I went through.
Do you remember
control,
it at
but
all?
It was before it got updated.
I mean, a long time ago.
Yeah, a while back.
Well, I don't know if we can do anything, but that's a shame.
No, we can positive. Get it done. How you doing, Jack?
Well, it's really fucked up, Jack. I'm not even sure we can do it, you know? Because they've fucked up so much bureaucratically that they've changed everything. And the way they do things, they used to have a staff member do it. Now they have a staff member, and you have to have a production, and I'm not sure she can, we might have to do it in a very primitive way, okay? Because we don't know what we're doing. She doesn't know, and I don't know how to make the equipment work. Do you know how to get the DVD?
Down.
No, they won't come down now.
Oh.
Yeah. So, do you know how to make the DVD stop
Over here. Like this.
and finalize the DVD?
That's still recording. I don't want to muck him up with this.
Okay, well, I didn't realize that we're stuck unless we can get somebody who knows. No, they won't come down. They won't do it because they're saying that they've changed things from the way I understood it, and they have to have somebody.
Richard couldn't?
Nobody on staff will
No.
come. We're supposed to know how to do it ourselves, and we don't. And there's nobody here. Okay. What do you know how to do in the room?
There's the switching. I
You
can
know how to
put
switch
the
from
level
camera
there,
one,
I can
camera
put in the
two?
yeah, sure.
Can
that's
you
a
go
simple
camera
dimple.
1, camera
Oh,
2,
yeah,
and you know how to do
I
it?
did that perfectly. Yeah.
You can
1,
do
2,
that.
3. That's 1, 2,
Even
3.
if you don't know how to put in graphics or anything, we don't have to
Well,
put in.
the titles were put in, but when he showed me how to scroll down and then key 1, it
Yeah.
didn't come in, except your host's name came in and conversations came in, but no outro.
Okay, so could you do it if we get with him, if we get it set up right, could you do it and no graphics, just go
Yeah.
camera 1,
Oh,
camera
sure,
2, camera
sure,
3, and just
sure.
follow
I
that?
crouch
You
with-
could do that.
Definitely.
You know how to do
Oh,
that.
definitely.
Okay,
It goes
then,
very smooth.
okay. Then we'll do it without any graphics or anything.
Yeah.
Okay, let me get somebody to help me do that.
I'm gonna start in like 5-10 minutes.
Pardon?
5-10 minutes. I just want to go out and get warm.
Okay, yeah, okay, please, go ahead. Sweetheart, could you help me out of a fix I'm in for about 5 minutes?
I'm not certified for down there.
Well, that's all right. Do you know how it works? Oh, you don't? Okay.
I've never done anything down
Okay,
there.
maybe Kwame does. Kwame, do you know how it works downstairs, the control room? Do you know how to work the control room?
Hmm?
You do?
Right.
In the control room downstairs in the studio? Don't do it. How did it go in Mozambique, or where you went?
In Zimbabwe. Namibia.
How was it?
Fantastic.
Catch up with it
Fantastic.
later. she knows how to switch. So what we're going to do, if you will, for me, I'd appreciate. Can you finalize the DVD?